We're located here at New Geneva, Pennsylvania, a historic pottery site, one that played a very important role in helping develop our country, and especially it started right here in southwestern Pennsylvania. This was a pottery site that produced a variety of stoneware, such as this type of container here, and a variety of bowls and pans made of clay. This is an example of the types of potteryware that was made and processed right here. A lot of the pieces that had broken were brought down to the river's edge and discarded. And I was very interested in this site since the early 60s and would come down here quite often hoping to be able to find a complete pottery vessel, and it dawned on me that we were going to have to dig. So that's what some of my friends and I did. We dug in the rubble here and was very fortunate in locating some of the pottery pieces that were completely intact. And I thought, gee whiz, this is really a shame that all this educational material was going to waste. It was just lying here on a riverbank, no one using it. And I thought this would be something that surely would interest students in a classroom. So I took a variety of materials from here, and especially one of the objects like this. It's called a clay standoff. This clay standoff really got my attention because it contained not only the finger impressions, but the actual fingerprints of these early pottery workers from the early 1800s. And even further, even to further my interest, I noticed that many of the fingerprints were made by children. They had to have been made by children because they were so small. And as a young boy, when I was growing up, I could remember my parents talking about children working in the coal mines back in 1876. And I thought, gee whiz, here's a situation where children were not only working in coal mines, but they were working here in a pottery factory. So I've had the pleasure of working with approximately about 600 students down at Carmichael's Elementary here at Carmichael's, Pennsylvania, which is very close here. And Jerome Bartley and Mrs. Joy Volpe wrote a grant and submitted it to the Department of Education in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and was very fortunate in being awarded this grant. And it was a grant to bring a hands-on science program to their school, first grant that they had ever been presented with. And I thought this was really great. Here's an opportunity to really utilize the materials here at this pottery site in the classroom. And I'd like to introduce Mrs. Joy Volpe. Unfortunately, Mr. Jerome Bartley couldn't be here this evening, but Mrs. Volpe and I do team teach at her school. Joy?
Well, thank you. As Mr. Pyle said, I'm a teacher at Carmichael's Area Elementary Center, and this year we started a hands-on science program that allowed the children to come from first grade up through sixth grade and have access to working with science, a lot of different areas of science, but using their hands in as many ways as possible. As Mr. Pyle said, the grant was written and we were awarded it. This gave me the opportunity to bring Mr. Pyle in to share his expertise, his knowledge, and all the different loves that he has with the rest of the students in our building. And I'd like to add that the children, I mean, this covers all ages and all learning abilities. We have children with learning disabilities, special ed, gifted students, your average student. This just captures the attention of all the children, and they really like it. They really love it. No one misses science lab or Mr. Pyle's classes.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. It's really gratifying as to have a program that really works. That is, stimulates the students to get interested in education, and the program allows them to think about possible career goals, as well as building their self-esteem. I've noticed that, and I think that works well, don't you?
Yeah, now that you ask a child what he wants to be when they grow up, there are not too many doctors, a lot of archaeologists though, a lot of paleontologists. A lot of children want to go into forensic art, into looking for artifacts and reconstructing the past.
Yeah. Well,
this is a group of our students, some of our students that we've been working with, and we've done a lot of background information with the children as far as the pottery and the different pieces. Mr. Pyle's going to give them a brief review, and then maybe we can get started.
Yeah, I think that you're all anxious to get started to see if you can make a discovery, knowing that you will, because there's so many things here, and you are very familiar with a lot of them. And again, there's always that 1% that you can't identify, but we'll sure learn how to research as to find out what they are. And again, these are some of the different materials that were necessary for making good stoneware pottery. Yeah, thank you. These are called glaze testers. These played a very important role in pottery making. They would have this large kiln that was approximately 20-25 feet in diameter, 30 feet high, and they would stack the pottery inside of the kiln. And then they would shovel in salt so that the salt would vaporize and cover the surface of the pottery, therefore sealing the pottery, making it usable for holding food stuff and liquids. Because if you don't glaze or have some kind of a sealer on the freshly made pottery pieces, it will leach out, it will leak out, and therefore not serve any purpose at all. But the students, again, are quite familiar with the various types of salt glaze, and the maturity bars, which was very important, which these were used to test the melting point of the clay. Remember, as I was telling you, is that some of the pieces, well, matter of fact, right here, see one? This is a maturity bar. This is also one, because this was a time period where there weren't gauges or temperature controls, and the pottery makers had to experiment with the clay as to determine what it would do under certain heat at certain times. And that's what they would do, is to conduct tests. And these are the maturity bars. Remember them, Nick? All right. And, yeah, and the covers. These covers were made of clay, and they were placed over the top of the jug, or the rim of the jug. And most of the jug-type containers have 3 scars on the shoulder part of the vessel. And that has resulted from the use of a stacking ring, and this was the process in which it was used, was that they would take a stacking ring and place it on the top of the jug, like so. And then they would take another jug and place it on the top of that inside of the pottery kiln, and they would do this until the kiln was completely filled with the pottery that had been made. Maybe it took them 2 weeks to make this much pottery. And again, if they weren't paying attention to the glaze testers, it could be total destruction for the pottery. It could be just all melted, because they built a fire in the bottom of the kiln that would produce the heat to bake the clay and vaporize the salt that was shoveled into the floor of the kiln. So I guess we're all anxious to get ready, right? Okay, well, this is what we'd like for you to do, is to look at the site here and see what you can discover. And remember, unfortunately, this site's going to be underwater in about a year because of the new flood control that's been built in this area. So this is an opportunity not only to make a discovery, but to keep that discovery. This could be used for your future school projects, future reports, and it's something that you'll be able to share with someone else sometime. You ready? All right. You may go and see what you have. And if you have any questions, feel free to come over and we'll see if we can identify it. Just the same way as we do in the classroom. Okay. Yeah. I think I'll look too. Yeah, you were finding that there. You see here? Look here, honey. See how that fits on here? Like this here. Look here. This here just fits on here. And then whenever they took this off, You see that? When they pulled this stacking ring off, it left that scar on there. Isn't that neat? Isn't that neat, just by looking at and studying these type of pieces, that you can really determine a lot as to how these pieces were really used and made. Isn't that neat? All right. Yeah, that's one of the, yeah, all right. See the scar? That's what I was saying. This is something that is going to be gone forever. And I'm going to try to come down here sometime. We'll get your dad, because I know he can dig really good, I'll bet. So, and we'll be able to really try and locate some of the pieces that are deeply buried here. Because again, this is going to be lost unless you're a scuba diver. And it can be very expensive in getting involved in scuba diving, but that's good, and I would keep that.
This is how much I
This
found.
too. All right. And a variety too. You didn't pick up 3 of the same thing. That's great. Yeah, this is one of the fire bricks. This is one of the fire bricks. Yeah, this is the seal of the company that was over at Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. All right. All right. Did you see the scar on the jug, on the top of the jug? What was that object that was fit on the top of here? What kind of ring? Yeah, a collar, stacking ring. Yeah, you can take it. Do you want to keep it? Yeah, you can. You can keep it. For sure. These are all yours to keep. Yeah. This is the bottom of the jug. You notice, see how it's circular? See how circular the pattern is here? You can actually see some of the finger imprints as they worked the clay and left the fingerprints actually on there. And this is the bottom of the jug. And that's what you're looking at here. Some of these are highly glazed, salt glazed. Nick, what do you have?
I found words written in the stone.
Words written in stone. Yes. This is from the block or the brick company that was once over at Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. Yes. That's what we do, is that we try to find these different pieces with markings on them so that we can maybe identify some of the businesses that may have been here. Maybe we'll be able to identify some that no one even knew about, just from a little piece of clay with an initial or a name on it. Yeah. This is, look here, Nick. Remember this? This is the rim. This is the rim. This is the shoulder, and the body wall, and the base. And then the strap handle. Remember the ones that came off from the rim to the shoulder?
Yeah.
Remember those? Are those the older ones or the later ones?
They were the later ones.
Okay.
I get one of those. I have that part, the handle, in my box down there with Terry.
Oh, you do? Okay. Okay. Great. That's great.
Does it like have a lid on it?
Oh, okay. This is what's called a wax sealer. You notice this inner rim? Okay, this is the wax sealer. And did you ever see anyone make jelly at home and they would pour wax over the top of the jelly to seal it?
Yeah.
Well, that's what they did here in the early 1800s, is that they used this stoneware for canning food. That was one of the most, as I mentioned, that was what was really important about this site, that it provided the stoneware for the early settlers of not only Pennsylvania, but surrounding areas as well. And they could live here for many years because they had a method of, other than drying food, but by storing it in these stoneware jars. And some of the pottery makers would design the pottery so that they could personalize it. In other words, so they'd be able to identify, say, yes, I made that. And they would pour wax in the top of this vessel, and that would seal the food stuff inside. And these were approximately 8 to 10 inches long, pretty much about the size of the jug here. And there was a variety of sizes that was made also. Isn't that neat? Okay.
Fantastic. You have got to go say some comforting words to the little girl over there in the white pants and the striped shirt. She came over. She's crying her eyes out because they're going to flood this area.
Oh.
So we said, well, Mr. Pyle will find another pottery place. He knows everything. So you got to go.
I was wondering why she was upset.
Oh, they're going to flood this place.
Honey, can I talk to you for a minute? This here pottery site, there's another one that's really close by here. It's between Point Marion in New Geneva. And so we will have a place that we can go and hunt pottery and plus keep what we find. There's lots of pottery there too. So this site isn't the only site, but it is Pennsylvania pottery. What do you think of that? So we won't have to take everything today because we have another site just right up the river from here that we can collect and learn about these early pottery makers, especially the children that worked in this pottery factory. Look at that. Look at these little fingerprints in here. I wonder, see if your fingerprint fits in there. You want to try that? Certainly does. All right. Okay, this is one of the chucks. This here was circular, and it had a bottom in it, and they would put these on the wheel. And when they were making the pottery, they put this on the wheel, and then they would take it off, the pottery, and this object here called a, do you remember the name of this? A chuck?
Chuck?
Yeah, called a chuck. I just wonder if it's called a chuck because of the person who maybe invented this. Maybe his name was Chuck. That's something we can look into, couldn't we? But anyhow, they would have this pottery vessel on here, and they would, that had just been freshly made. They would set the chuck and a pottery vessel on a table, and they'd let it sit there until it dried, air dried. Then they would take a tool and scrape the excess clay that was attached to the vessel. Because if they didn't, when they would heat it, it would be stuck there and it could cause someone to get cut or hurt because of these sharp pieces of clay. Isn't that neat? Okay, thank you. All right. And I'd hang on to that one. That's a really good find. Okay.
Why is this ring on there?
Oh, okay. This is one of the, you know, you could really even determine the actual diameter of this pottery vessel just from the circumference of the piece that you have here. But what you have is a rim, sherd meaning piece, and what we call a lug handle. This is a lug handle. Look at the glaze. This was probably made, you know, I just thought of this. This was probably made by R.T. Williams. R.T. Williams was one of the later pottery makers here at New Geneva. He also made pottery over at Greensboro, Pennsylvania. And Nick, you want to listen to this story? Because I'd like for you to remember this, because I don't know if you were in class that day or not. But anyhow, R.T. Williams mysteriously disappeared. He went to Pittsburgh on a barge filled with pottery. And the story was that R.T. Williams had fallen overboard and drowned. Well, later on, approximately 25 years later on, there was a gentleman that returned to Greensboro, to the old home place of R.T. Williams. In the meantime, during that 25 years, R.T. Williams' wife had died, and there were 2 boys that had been left behind. Well, again, 25 years later, this gentleman stopped by the old home site. He knocked on the door, and he asked the lady that came to the door, which was one of the wife to one of the boys. And he wanted to know if they were there, and she said no. He said they were out in the field working, and she would go get them if he would like. And the elderly gentleman said no. He said, I would really like to look around in the old pottery buildings. And the young lady said, sure, go ahead. So, and a little while later, the gentleman came back, and he said, he thanked her for allowing him to look through the pottery. And many people today think that maybe this was R.T. Williams, who really didn't disappear, but this gentleman had returned home, and maybe for some reason, he left. So it's still a mystery what, happened to R.T. Williams. And many of the clay standoffs, the ones that were made by adults, probably contained his actual fingerprints, his actual finger impressions. And this is, if I was going to keep something from this site, this is what I would keep. And this is rare to be able to do that, is to actually keep an artifact from a site. And then to even know the history of that artifact even makes it more meaningful, more valuable historically. Because you have something that's one of a kind, and you found it, you discovered it. Isn't that neat? Okay, yeah. Nice strap handle. This is what we call a strap handle. Hamilton and Jones, who were two other pottery makers here, were very famous for making these special type handles called strap handles. That's a really good find. Okay.
I think that was the same thing he found.
Yes, it is. It's just not complete.
I got another part of that. I don't know if it's the same part to it or not, but I have a part of a strap handle.
Well, are you going to see if it matches up when you get home?
If I can find it.
Okay.
Gary's doing pretty good.
All right. Yes, he is. Okay.
That's great.
It's just,
Fantastic.
it is really exciting.
Oh, I'll tell you.
That's a really precious story, as Brenda said.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was.
I mean, when you have that kind of concern, I mean, she is young, but the thing is that I guess, you know, they do have feelings, and they, I guess they really do understand when something's going to be gone. There's a jug cover right there. See it
Well,
before I pick it up?
It sure is.
You don't.
A jug
A
cover.
nice jug cover. This is. This was. It has the imprint of the rim of the jug, and these were placed out here. And sometimes you can identify them just from the top because of the finger impressions.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's great.
that's yours. I'd like for you to have that.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll put that in the museum as soon as I get. You know,
You were there when I should have let you pick it up instead of me picking it up.
I think it's fascinating, the report that little girl gave, that for the fact that young people do know, respect history.
Yeah.
If they're given the opportunity, they do care.
Yeah.
That artifacts are going to be, well, in this case,
Lost. Gone forever.
And I think that it should be readily noted then that young people enjoy studying
Yeah.
and taking an interest in our country, in our heritage, in our nation,
Yes.
and the things that have been. And when you take more pride in something, then a greater respect for it dwells within that person. And I think this is a great thing that you all are doing. I really do. And I think that little girl was just a living witness to that.
Yes, she sure is, and again, it's caring. That's and knowing. Yeah. Yeah, it's really gratifying when you have. I mean, right here, who would? I mean, she is testimony to being interested and really being concerned. I mean, almost tears,
Yes.
concerned.
Yeah.
And we have. I mean, how many children could get excited over broken pieces of pottery?
That's right. Yes.
that
Where she has had the connection with the past inserted in that through your efforts, then it becomes valuable. And our past is valuable because
yes, it is tremendously.
it's been a real blessing being back out on this location.
Well,
It certainly is.
I certainly am very thankful and appreciative of you and your staff and presenting educational programs like this and exposing areas of our ancient past that normally most people would not even hear about.
Well, we're happy to do it because
And it's true.
it's important to every citizen of this nation should have the opportunity to at least, if not visit, to know what has been, and within that I think it helps the young people plan what tomorrow will be.
Yes, I think so too. And what better level of education to start with than that is the elementary level, because this is where they are very impressionable, and this is a time to give them many areas of science to think about as a lifetime goal. As I point out to the students too, and I realize that not everyone's structured for college, and I point out that hobbies are important to families as well as going to college, but again, hobbies are very important, and it started out with me as a hobby, and that I was fortunate to move into a larger community area where there were people that had the same interests. And being a young fella, about 9 years old, I was able to get introduced to a lot of different science areas in which it's sort of, the way I look at it is paying back that early time that professionals took with me. So,
Well, that's great. That's
yeah.
great.
One last thing I'd like to add here is I'd like to thank Mr. Pyle for giving my students the opportunity to be exposed to this type of knowledge. And another message I'd just like to make to parents and to the public and to other teachers, that hands-on science or hands-on any type of classroom activity where you can get the children actively involved really makes a much stronger impression in a child's mind, makes it more meaningful for the child, and he can relate to it. And believe me, he'll carry it much further into his life than something that he has to read out of a book and memorize it and take a test on it. If you would see the eyes and see in the children's eyes their excitement and enthusiasm when they come into science class, and how they'll go home and bring it back a week later to show us materials or artifacts or objects that we've discussed in class, or their own interpretation of something that we've discussed, from them having the access and the ability to work with different materials, you would be amazed at how much comprehension occurs. Hands-on science is definitely the way to go in education. This year we're teaching a class from kindergarten up through 6th grade, and it's amazing how much information even a kindergarten or a first grade child can comprehend and retain. That's all. Thank you.
Okay.
I want to take advantage of this opportunity to say thank you, Mr.
Thank
Pyle.
you. Thank you.
And thank you for the effort, and all teachers. There are many other teachers here today.
Yes.
And I want you to know that they care about the youth of this nation. And the little example earlier that you saw of the young girl, knowing that this heritage was going to be flooded, was in tears. If you teach a child to respect his heritage, then he will be a respected citizen. And really, what does it take? We're on a pile of broken pottery.
Yeah.
And they have learned a great deal. Their heritage is important. So I want to thank the young people that have been here this afternoon and that have been with us and that have hunted. You're precious, and it's so good to have been with you, really.
Yeah.
So there you have it, in Pennsylvania, a small town doing a major, big job in educating our youth. And you know what? You were there.
Yeah.